Yes, people, we are back. Big up to all of you. Make sure you do me a favor, hit that like button. Make sure you hit subscribe. And apologies for being a little bit late. As most of you will know, I was over at the football terrace, but I'm here now. And I'm absolutely delighted to be with a good friend of the show, man. James B from AFTV, from the Gooniverse. Good friend of mine, good friend of the channel. You're back on, man. How you doing, bro?
Man, it's great to be here. And yeah, I'm good. How are you, my friend?
Very well, man. Very well. I'm actually pleased that there's something to talk about today because there's
Oh,
breaking news across what was probably the early hours. David Ornstein bombs. We're talking about Arsenal incomings, outgoings. So yeah, man, that's what it is all about. So I'm kind of good,
yeah.
bro.
Yeah, and it's actually, dare I say, I mean, apart from the Calafiori signing, it's kind of the first time the transfer window has started to get a bit exciting for us. And it's crazy because not really much has happened. It shows you kind of how quiet this window's been. But in comparison to the rest of the summer, it, things are feeling a little more lively. We'll break it all down, but yeah, I'm confident. I'm more confident today, and I was last night that things are going to happen in this window. So let's see.
Yeah, mate, we're gonna have to see indeed. That's for sure,
Mhm.
bro. Listen, we're in a situation right now where we are 10 days away from this window shutting. I don't know how you're feeling about it, but I'm actually looking forward to it shutting. So we don't
Oh,
have to like discuss and rumors and talk about what's happening left, right, and center. I actually want to see some stuff get done, don't get me wrong, but at the same time, I do want it to shut so it's over. The problem I've got, James, is I want it to shut and us all to be happy. I don't want it to shut and us to go, right, Kroenke's and Edu have left us short again. What's Arteta supposed to do with this squad now? How are we going to get above Manchester City? And I was just coming off of a stream with Terry and LB talking about how Manchester City are looking pretty scary with the return of Gundogan and Savio, or Savinho as they're calling him now, who, by the way, looks phenomenal. This is going to be tough, bro. I mean, we knew it was going to be tough anyway. It looks like it's going to be even tougher now to actually get across the line with signings like that. What do Arsenal need to do for you before we start breaking it down in terms of players? What do Arsenal need to do for you to actually go, right? Windows shut. I'm happy. I'm ready. I'm ready to go here because there's a lot of different sort of opinions on what Arsenal need to do in terms of strengthening. And it'd just be good from the off to get an understanding of where you're at, bro.
let me start by apologising to everyone who might have heard me kind of rant about this, which is I think this forward signing is a big deal we got to do. And I want to just clarify what I mean by that. I'm not saying we need a 100 million pound number nine. I'm not even saying we necessarily need number nine. I'm not even necessarily saying we need the next Sadio Mane or anything. But we need something to freshen up that front line to take the
Mm-hmm.
weight off the players that are stepping up, like Bukayo Saka. And he doesn't just step up in terms of numbers. He steps up. A big up forward, by the way. He steps up in
Yeah.
terms of his availability, always there. Every big game, actually, not even every big game, every game, Bukayo Saka's available. They're ready to go. We need something that at least throws a different question at teams. And look, this is it's 20th of August, right? My brother's birthday, actually. Happy birthday to him. It's uh, if this were 20th of June, I'd be saying something different. I'd be saying, no, we need to add that difference maker. I'd be talking about Eze. Could we tempt a Rashford? Could we,
Mm-hmm.
who else is out there? That's what I'd be talking about. Rodrigo, Mbappe's come in. So could we? I feel like we have to be realistic. I'm not saying it's not disappointing. It is, but I'm beyond that. My standards have naturally lowered. With 10 days to go, I'm talking about adding something that's at least different to what we got into the forward line. That doesn't mean any old player. That doesn't mean just add anything and I'll be happy with it. Of course not. But I went through this big list of players on my channel. There are players out there that can add something to Arsenal. And I think we need to get creative in the market. We need to do something. And dare I say, we need to roll the dice. I think we've got a really good team, and I think we can do really good things this season, even if no players come in. I include Mourinho in that. Even if Mourinho doesn't join, I expect us to do big things this season. But why leave it to chance? Like, why not have a go and leave no stone unturned and really give City a fight? Because they've just brought in Savinho and Gundogan. I don't think they'll be done there. Oscar Bob was looking smashing in pre-season. I imagine he'll come back on fire. So yeah, I want to give him as good as we got.
Yeah, listen, facts. I think personally, Curtis and I said this on this channel not long ago. If we don't buy that attacker, I really don't see us winning the league. And I know that you say we can still do good things with what we've got. I agree with that. I think we can. We proved last season, right, that we're up there. But for me, I think to get us across that line when it matters, to actually allow for the killer in the box, There's a typical example at the weekend of Kai Havertz, who I thought played really well, by the way, and obviously got his goal.
Mm,
He's in the box, he's using his right foot, and most people that I know with a right foot put that in the top corner and he skies it wide. That's the sort of opportunity that I think, yeah, do you know what? I need a Gyökeres in there. I need an Osimhen in there. I need an Ivan Toney, let's say, in there. Now, whether or not you think those guys are good enough or they're realistic targets, I can see why there's evidence as to why we still need something up top. And although I don't think we're short in that area, I think we might be short of quality. We're definitely not short in terms of quantity because we've got Trossard and Martinelli that can still play in the 9, as well as Jesus and Havertz, right? But we need that guy that I think is clinical. And that is the not equivalent of Haaland, because there isn't one. Let's be real. People say to me, we need a Haaland. Well, who is it? Where are they? There isn't one. I can't see one, right?
yeah, good luck.
Alexander Isak is one that everybody wants, and I agree with that. That's my number one choice, but that's not happening right this summer. So we need to be realistic about that, James. And I think that when we look at the Marinos and Calafioris coming in, we'll talk on that separately. I do feel like that window could be like, okay, this is getting good. And that attacker then goes, okay, wow, fair play. I don't want to not do that at the end of the window. I don't want to look at that and go, Calafiori Marino. Okay, right. Whoa, what we got up top is Eddie staying there, and we got Reece Nelson. And, you know, my kind of last point on this is if we sell Smith Rowe, Eddie Nketiah, and Reece Nelson, and we just keep Awanieri and go, that's it, I feel we've downgraded, James. I don't know what your thoughts are.
That's a great question because it depends how special Nwaneri is, and that's
he looks special, that's for sure.
He is, but that's
he'd have to be bloody special though.
It's a lot of pressure. I tell you what, like, I mean, in all seriousness, I'm all for the youngster stepping up from the academy and being the answer. I mean, but this is my issue, okay? Where did Nwaneri thrive in pre-season, right? Because let's be honest, he looked the part, didn't he? I watched him pre-season. I went, this guy belongs with the first team. We can play with him. But he was playing in Erdegaard's role or Rice's role, basically either side of our number 6 in central midfield. If he got those minutes out on the right, I'd be a little bit less stressed about the front 3. I mean, don't get me wrong, I'd still say we need a forward, and I wouldn't want to put that pressure on him. But at least I'd have known those performances came from forward areas. And maybe, okay, you're talking about a backup to Saka. Well, maybe you've got a natural heir there who's very young, who's going to play academy minutes, that can come in. We're not in that position. He got all his minutes in central areas. And even if I'm talking about all that from the most positive of angles, he's still 17. It's a pressure I wouldn't want to put on him. In terms of the rest of the squad, I mean, I'm kind of with you, you know, I don't know, being half Italian and watching Calafiori at the Euros, I was super excited about that signing. But the problem is Arsenal just know how to butcher a deal. I mean, we just know how to drag it out. So by the time he signed, I was like, yay. You know, I mean, obviously I was happy. It was like, okay, I knew about this 3 weeks ago. And Marino feels a little bit the same, although that's dragging on. He was in training yesterday. So don't get me wrong. I think those are 2 really good additions. It's very hard to upgrade on a fully fit Thomas Partey and a fully fit Declan Rice and a fully fit Martin Odegaard. Marino seems a really sensible deal, who I think can fit in really well with Rice and Odegaard. Calafiori, I think, can be an upgrade at left back, but my word, is Timber going to make him fight for that spot? Because how good did he look the other day?
He looked sharp, man.
Great. Across all those positions, I feel really good. You know, Nwaneri coming in midfield, but Marino there too. The back four looks phenomenal. I wouldn't trade our back four for anyone's, honestly. And then you just get to that front line and it's, well, what's out there? You know, we've been linked to a Simon Adingra. And at first I went, really? And then it's like, actually, well, you never know. Like, he's got the raw attributes. He's got the pace. Do you develop that? But at least it asks a different question. I think my big thing on this forward thing is a lot of people say, yeah, but if they're not better than Eddie and Nelson. And I'm thinking, well, hold on. When the going got tough, Arteta didn't play Eddie and Nelson. So at the very least, we want someone Arteta's going to play. And is going to trust. So I think there's a lot of ways you can look at this. I feel that in the last 24 hours, what is it, 5 p.m. on Tuesday, right? So in the last 24 hours, things start to get exciting, right? £25 million bid for Eddie Nketiah from Nottingham Forest. I'm going to hold my hands up. I didn't think we were going to get better than that Marseille bid, and I was proven wrong. So fair play, fair play to those who said, well, we had to hold out. I will say we've rejected it. So I really hope they come back again.
That's what I said.
I thought, wow, the cheek of us, but let's see. So if we get that deal done, I'd be amazed if Arteta's happy to let go of a player who, whatever we think of Eddie, has played significant minutes under Arteta. He has used him in the last 2 years. Maybe not in the last run-in, but he has used him. So would you want to get rid of him and not replace him? Ramsdale, we heard about this bid coming from Wolves, and almost immediately Fabrizio Romano dropped that we've got personal terms agreed with Johan Garcia. This is good. This is all good proactive stuff. Players going out, players coming in, blah, blah, blah. But we need that forward link because at the moment it seems like it's all on Nelson and Nketiah leaving, and we have got no links or anything to other forwards. But I do think Arsenal will try, if I'm honest.
Listen, let's talk about how we could try and what it might look like if we don't. Because for me, and I do want to move on to the signings, it's just that we kind of, as you said, we've kind of knew these two were happening, and it looks like Marino is going to get done now.
Yeah.
The reason I've titled this about Kai Havertz in the thumbnail is because I saw some stats today on Sky Sports that said that in the last 17 games that he played as a number 9, the goals and assists were quite incredible, to be fair. And we've already seen in the first game that he scored another goal from the number 9 position. So I wanted to be brutally honest here and say, do you think that he could stay in that 9 position for most of this season? And if we do buy a striker, or whether we do or not, do you actually think that no matter what happens, Kai Havertz is Arteta's number 9? Because he was a midfielder. He said in interview he was a midfielder. He clearly wasn't a midfielder, bro. I thought that was pretty simple from the start. I never, ever thought he was going to do well in the number 8, man. I really did not. I wasn't a fan of him as a footballer. In fact, in the number 8, I thought he was good defensively as opposed to offensively in that role. The opposite can be said about the number 9. I think he's been really good. And off the back end of last season, I think he was proving to everybody that he wasn't a £65 million flop. So for me, I don't know what that means for in Arteta's eyes, but all I would say is, as harsh as it might sound and as ruthless as it might be, if Kai Havertz is coming on for 25 minutes to give us a different dimension, or if he's starting at centre forward in certain games to give the other number 9 a rest, I'm cool with that. But I don't know what your thoughts are on Arteta's relationship with Kai Havertz as that number 9 starter, mate.
Yeah, it's really difficult. It's genuinely, it's really difficult. There'll be some people that want me to just jump on and say, no, he's rubbish. He just has his moments, but he's still not good enough. We need better. And then there'll be some people that are saying, come on, why can't you give him credit? He's been brilliant. Since he's led the line, look at the numbers. He's been amazing. And I sit in between the two, which is that, even with those impressive numbers, I think sometimes he hasn't always, he can feel like he floats in and out of the game. He feels like he can float in and out of games, period. Like there can be some games where he's involved and others where he's not. Brighton away last season, he was brilliant. Other games like the Etihad, did he have the impact? And some people will go, yeah, but that's the Etihad. It's difficult. Okay, sure. But that's the level, right? That's what we're looking to get to. And he struggled to have an impact in that game. I've got no doubt. I'm happy to say that he's improved massively since playing up front. And I also think, and this is the boring side of the answer, but you knew what you were getting. You've talked to me plenty of times about Arsenal, Dan. I think he does a lot of stuff off the ball that, quite frankly, isn't going to make comps and that we're not really going to have fun talking about, that Arteta probably loves. And in that Brentford game, the amount of times he was nicking the ball back off the press, how much he drops into that, 2 banks of 4 to help out. Saka, went charging up the pitch for a counter. Havertz lost the ball, but he sprinted back immediately to cover in his position. Now, to us, that feels like, well, obviously you've got to do that. That's what every player should deliver. But does every player deliver that? I don't think they do. And I think there's a lot of stuff in terms of positioning and off the ball that Havertz does well. Now, if you're all asking me, is that enough? No, it's ultimately about what you do on the ball. And that has undoubtedly improved since he's been up front. But look, you can tell I'm waffling and I'm just on the fence here because I don't know. Essentially, you're asking me, can he lead us? Can he lead the line and us win the title? That's the question, right? I don't know. I genuinely don't know. I think he led the title in the running. He led the side in the title running last season. Did so very well. Played really well at Tottenham. Got the assist for Trossard against Man United. Really good assist. He did some really good work. So the evidence is probably leaning towards, yeah, he can. But I don't think our front line is quite ready. And when you're talking about what you and Curtis were saying about, winning the Premier League without forward, I was on AFTV's, predictions. And I said second. I said, but come to me on deadline day. If we've signed a forward, then I do bump us up to first. But I think it's that important. That's where I am with it.
I'm the same. I'm exactly the same. And, like for me, even if with a striker, I'd still really struggle to put us first. And that's nothing, against anything other than Manchester City are ridiculously good. And I honestly believe they've strengthened. I really do. People think they haven't with Savio and Gundogan. That is strengthening. Trust me, like that really is. So I do think that it will be a struggle again. But listen, For me, I honestly want Victor Gyökeres now.
Yeah.
And I say I want Victor Gyökeres now, not because I woke up this morning and decided I want him now. It's because I actually have followed his kind of footsteps for the last few months since we were linked with him very early on, and thought, so what's this guy all about then? He was at Coventry, he scored lots of goals. A lot of people sort of rolled their eyes at that, but the Championship is a really incredibly competitive league, very physically demanding, and there is some experience of England there. He's gone over to the Portuguese league and he's got 58 GA in 50 games. Not many people do that, and people say it's a farmers league. Well, why isn't all the strikers doing that then? There's clearly something that he's doing that he's absolutely killing it. I understand why people look at Darwin Núñez and point the finger, but not all number nines are like Darwin Núñez. If you look at the way they both play, they're very different.
Yeah.
Darwin Núñez is very chaotic. He plays with absolute havoc. He causes absolute mayhem, right? With Victor Gyökeres, he's actually a fantastic ball carrier. If you look at his ball carrying stats, they're incredible. If you look at his aerial ability, it's good. If you look at his ball control, it's really good. If you look at his passing ability, it's good. His link-up play, I'm thinking, what is it that this striker can't do very well then? There isn't much, James. Now, I'm not saying he's going to be the next Thierry Henry for Arsenal. I'm thinking to myself, if we don't go and try and take a risk on somebody like that, and we just keep hold of Havertz, we will always be thinking, what if we would have got Victor Gyökeres? What if we would have tried to include a striker on that? So I ask you that question. Who do you want up top?
Well, and let's talk about Gyökeres a little bit more because,
Sure.
he does he not fit the mold? And what I mean by that is like, do you remember that picture that did the rounds? I think it was captured by the Sky Sports cameras of the Arsenal players turning and looking at I think it was Sheffield United players in the tunnel. And like, I mean, I'm a young Arsenal fan. I grew up through a lot of the banter era, and I've never been from the time I became an Arsenal fan, I haven't seen us win a Premier League trophy, right? So I'm used to the narrative of soft underbelly, pushovers, lightweight midfielders. They need some power, they need some strength. This Arsenal team feel like they're a million miles away from those criticisms. Doesn't Gyökeres just fit the mold? He looks like a 25-year-old powerhouse. He looks like a ruthless goal scorer, like a killer. Now, I'm no expert on the guy. And, I think a few people can probably cut a certain image and actually not be it. But, his record in Portugal is phenomenal. And he just looks like he fits the bill. I mean, imagine a spine of Gyökeres, Rice and Marino, or Rice and Partey, or whoever, Saliba, Gabriel, Raya, sprinkled with Calafiori, with White, with, like I mentioned, Jorginho, Marino, Partey, Erdegaard, who works incredibly well. Saka's no pushover. You've got a big team there with plenty of technicians. And I feel like he fits perfectly in that sense. Thing is, if you add a Gyökeres, what you're doing, and by the way, he's one of my first choices, I imagine. If you add this guy, though, you got him in direct competition with Havertz, which is okay. Havertz could play in midfield every now and again. I know we don't love that, but the better we get, I feel like the more that can work a little bit. And for most teams, we should be okay. So you got a little bit of a battle there. Jesus would have to play wide most of the season, though, because he'd immediately be third behind those guys. And Jesus would probably actually end up being Saka's backup. He would alternate on the left and right.
I'm okay with that, James. I really am okay with that.
I am.
Yeah. Because for me, I look at Jesus. I don't see him as a number 9. I don't think he's clinical enough. I love him as a footballer, though. And I think the link-up play, like typical examples, I'll give you 2 examples from the right-hand side where I liked him. Last season when Saka was injured in the home game at the Emirates, he was one of our best players in the right wing, I thought. I thought he was phenomenal. And
was
also,
that against City?
Against City, yeah.
Yeah, we beat them 1-0. Yeah, he was terrific, yeah.
He was absolutely superb. If you look at his game and you analyse what he did, he was superb on the right wing. And then what I do is I look at what he did when he came on in the number 9 against Bayern Munich at the home game. And then from the right-hand side, he's basically creating the goal that Trossard scores to get us back into the game. So I think for me, most of the work that he does could be on that right-hand side. And then you don't have to go and get a winger that no one's really sure that they want at the moment. I mean, hearing about 15 names that we're linked with. There's not one that someone says, it's got to be this guy. It's got to be this guy. Whereas I think when you go and get Victor Gyökeres, which let's be real, is probably the only option that we have got up top now if Isak is not available. Tony doesn't look realistic, neither does Osimhen. Other names people aren't interested in. I think Gyökeres could allow for Jesus to be that wide man. Then you've got Gyökeres and Havertz as your 9s. Then you've got Martinelli and Trossard on the left and Saka and Jesus right. I think that's really strong, James.
Yeah, I think it is really strong. I mean, I do think pace is a little bit of an issue in our squad. I don't think we've got that blistering counter-attacking pace. But look, let's get that 25 goal a season striker first, I suppose. But because I have fears as to how doable that Gyökeres deal is, essentially, like I'd love to do that. I would take a chance on an Osimhen, those kind of players that have obviously been talked about all window. But otherwise, if we are dropping down a caliber, if we are dropping down a level to someone who's a little bit more roll the dice, more of a risk, then they have to have certain attributes. There's going to be certain things that I think, okay, we don't know if you're 100% going to take us up a level, but my word, at least you give us something different. That's where Ivan Toney, and okay, people are going to talk about maybe his attitude, personality. I have no idea. It's just the rumors that do the rounds on socials, right? But he's a presence in the air that, yeah, Kai Havertz 6'4", but no one gives us the presence and the hold up that Tony gives us. That is something different. I mentioned Adingra there. I'm not, you're probably all thinking in the chat that I'm his biggest fan. I'm really not, but it was just mentioned over social media. What does he give us? Well, probably a blistering pace that maybe only Martinelli has, but even he does he have it in that way, so at least it's something definitely different. So for me, it's kind of like there's the upper echelon of player that I really hope we go for. And if it is that second barrier or that second bar down, it's like, well, what is that one thing they've got that's like, yeah, we don't have that. We do not have that. And at the very least, you're bringing us that to the squad. So I think it's going to be fascinating. And I think ultimately we have to wait for this Nketiah deal to get over the line. If it does, I think it's still hanging in the balance.
Yeah.
Do you think he will go, by the way, Eddie? I haven't got your thoughts on this. Do you think he's going to go?
Yes, I was with you, and I spoke to Harry Symeou about this at the weekend because I met him outside the Armory after the game with Tom Canton, and the three of us were chatting about it. And Tom disagrees with me and Harry. He thinks we should have held out and we shouldn't have accepted the Marseille bid. Me and Harry on the other end
He's
of the
right.
spectrum. Yourself, yeah, he was right. He was right, which is frustrating because Tom actually is quite right quite a lot of the time.
And I was
I
debating him
tend to
on
agree.
Twitter about it. I was
Really?
having a bit of back and forth with him. And I said, we should have taken it. I don't think a better deal is coming. And he said, we'll see. So I messaged him today. He's actually I'm going to have him on the podcast. And I said, let's hash this out because you were spot on. And he was. I mean, listen, it's not a miles better deal, really, but a better deal came in.
Yeah, listen, they did, and Tom's on here regularly, and Tom and I never really agree with most about Arsenal. There's a lot of disagreements that we have, all banter and all love, of course. I love Tom. Same with Harry Symeou actually, and it was like me and Harry actually agreeing on something that I was thinking. I think we should have just let him go. I actually happen to think he probably will go to Nottingham Forest. I think they're probably going to look at that and think, you know what, they want £5 million more. Let's just give it to them, even if it comes in with a 30 million with a few add-ons, or if it just comes on his 30 million with no add-ons. I think that he will end up going. If we can get 30 million, James, for Eddie Nketiah, we have to accept that. Like for me, that I know that we're looking around and thinking, oh my God, look at him going for this amount and him going for this amount. I don't really care at that. I want to get our business done. And if we're trying to wait weeks and weeks and weeks to get a few more £1 million for Eddie Nketiah to try and make it 32 instead of 30, I'm going to get annoyed if we don't get our business done in that time with 10 days left. So that's what I think, like realistically, will happen. It probably will be Forest, but I don't know what you think, mate.
Well, and also the cost of not doing this deal for Eddie now isn't just whatever couple million is involved in the transfer fee. It's time, it's days, lost not chasing the forward. Now I'm sure that they have big transfer teams and that there's loads of people sorting one side of the negotiation while another side's going on. And I will say, I think the one thing that maybe keeps Arsenal fans slightly hopeful is that we are not a club that leak things anymore. In the last year or two, yeah, I mean, it's really been ITKs that have got hold of most information. It's actually been quite difficult to know what Arsenal are doing. During Timber, and that came out of nowhere. I remember I was sitting watching the Inbetweeners movie, and then suddenly it just dropped like Arsenal have bid for During Timber rejected.
Yeah.
I think, what the hell is going on when we were in for him? And that's kind of been, again, out of nowhere yesterday, kind of Forrester in for Eddie, and the Calafiori one. We had nothing before the Euros, but after the performances put him a little bit more on the radar, so we find out we've been chasing for a whole year. He even came to the Palace game in January to watch us. So I do think with Arsenal there are things constantly ticking in the background that makes us think, okay, just because we haven't heard about it, we don't need to worry too much. But I do also feel that you ultimately can't really progress with an incoming until you have clarity on the outgoing. And I just feel like with this outgoing, it's just taking a little bit too much time. So Eddie, I think, will ultimately get the Forest move, I think. But I really hope we don't go back and forth too much. I think we're at
Same.
risk of. Am I allowed to swear on this channel? I mean,
Of course you are, bro. Yeah.
Thank you. Let's not take the piss. Is what I'm saying, right?
Yeah.
Like 25 million, I thought was quite a good deal.
Same.
And fair play. If Edu gets anywhere near 35 million, I have to say, well done. But it's like,
Same.
well done to a point, because then I'm going, okay, but reinvest and get the other player in. Otherwise, I'm not that happy Arsenal are making loads of money. Like I don't go to bed and I go, what a sale.
Exactly.
Great.
Yeah.
That's a stepping stone to the thing we want to do.
Of
So
course.
there's all that going on.
Listen, I'm 100% with you. There's a lot of Arsenal accountants in our fan base that seem to be like really happy that we're going to be holding out for 30 million. And I'm like, look, let's just get the business done, man. Listen, people, there's over 700 of you. This is fantastic. Please make sure you do me a favor and hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. Next target is 30K. We're just over 23 now. So let's make sure that we join the community to get the 12th man to 30K. Please make sure that you do go and sub to James as well at the Gooniverse. Also, I will make sure, I normally put it in the title when I haven't done that because I haven't had time to the terrace. So I do apologize, James. But I will 100% put that in the title. So all you need to do, guys, is click on the title when it goes straight to James's channel, who's flying, by the way. What's your next target, by the way? Are you on 40K already?
Oh, we're close to 40, but yeah.
There we go. So the next target is 40.
I really appreciate that.
So no, come on, man, you're flying. You're doing bits. It's great to see. So please make sure you go and join the Gooniverse community with James, who's putting out unbelievable content at the moment. So please make sure you go do that, people. I wanted to kind of move on to some incomings before we go to the other rumored players that are looking to leave. Marino and Calafiori. I mean, it looks like Marino's going to get done, so we can touch on that a bit. I spoke to Babs not long ago on the Cannon podcast with him, and he made a really good point to me. If we don't do anything else, we've already said we'll be a little bit deflated because this attacker's not going to come in, right? But he made a good point about our left-hand side, and it's a point that I made on my fan cam at the weekend because it's something that I've been questioning for quite some time now. I don't like the fact that Martinelli's performances have gone downhill. I don't like to make excuses for Martinelli because I think his performances need to be looked at individually. I think he needs to look at his game and think, right, how do I improve this? Because Trossard and Gabriel on that left-hand side haven't really had any drop-off in their performances. But I do think it is better for Ødegaard, Saka, Saliba and White, who are absolutely set in stone on that right-hand side. They have cemented the telepathy and communication to know who's playing where. I don't think we have on that left-hand side yet. And that can be down to injury at left back. It can also be down to a little bit of an understanding of perhaps not replacing Granit Xhaka like we wanted to in that left 8. And certainly with the number 9 changing as well. Sometimes we've seen Havertz play 9, then 8. Sometimes we've seen Timber start, then he gets injured. Kiwior and Zinchenko are shuffling it around at left back. Tomiyasu comes into the mix at times. And Martinelli is sometimes looking behind him, in front of him, and thinking, right, different player again. Oh, different player behind me. Yeah, and I know that Trossard's got that as well. But I just feel like these two signings coming in can actually flourish Martinelli and potentially Trossard as well. I thought was magnificent last season. And I feel like these two signings make sense because of that reason, James. So I just wanted to get your thoughts on that, bro.
Yeah, you're spot on. Graham and I did something on Tactical Insight where we looked at kind of our... It's difficult to explain the graphic. It's like it comes from Canon Stats. It's like an influence graphic that basically shows you how much players pass to each other, but also how involved players were. And if you look in this game we just had against Wolves, essentially it was very even down the right and down the left. I think we attacked 37% down the right, 34% down the left, right, which is pretty balanced. If you look at the game against Everton on the final day of the season, when we won 2-1, obviously we're chasing the title. We're hoping for a miracle at the Etihad, but we go a goal down. Everything was channeled down the right. Everything. All our play was just attack the right, attack the right, attack the right, because we didn't have a functional left-hand side. And when it got desperate, that was the side we attacked. And I just think when you look at pre-season, the goals we scored, look, honestly, you go back and watch all 10 goals we scored in pre-season, how many of them came down that left-hand side, whether it be Nwaneri cutting it across to Jesus, and so many other moments that happened came down that left-hand side. And I do think it's completely by design that Arteta wanted to channel more of our football down that side. That also opens up some space for Saka. But you can't just click your fingers and go, hey, team, trust the left more and play that way, because it's difficult. Gabriel doesn't progress the ball quite as well as Ben White. And you're asking Rice to do something on the left that I think Rice is a much better player than Granit Xhaka, but he doesn't maybe progress play as well as Granit Xhaka did in that 22-23 season. And then we were asking Vieira to do it, and then Havertz to do it, and then Trossard to do it. We had like 5 different 8s in that season. So I think the addition of Marino and Calafiori is to maybe add a little bit of stability there. And I agree with you. I made a load of excuses for Martinelli because I think he's a brilliant player. All of last season, I was saying, I can't get onto him because I saw how much every piece around him was pulled apart. The striker, the left central midfielder, and the left back was constantly shuffled around, moved around. But this season, it's looking like it's going to be different. And if you look at, these last few games, include pre-season, he's had a lot more of the ball. He's been a lot more involved in play. And I think he could have done a little bit better with a few moments. But I think he'll get there because I think he's a brilliant player. But you're absolutely right. The left-hand side is something that is being addressed tactically and in the market. which is good to see because I think he needed to. Just add the striker or the
Yeah,
forward.
yeah.
We're good.
Yeah, it really is that for me as well, because I said at the start of the window, people have asked me, "Oh, what do we need this window, Dan?" Before we'd signed anybody, and I said, "Well, we've got to sort out what's happening with Aaron Ramsdale, which we will come on to, by the way. But we
Yeah.
also need to look at our defensive situation, our midfield, and our attack." And they were like, "Wow, that's quite a lot." And I said, "Well, yeah, it kind of is, because this is how far we are away from, well, this is how close we are. Sorry, I should say, to getting across the line. We finished 2 points behind Manchester City last season, and we still need all of this. Imagine what that could do. So, could our left-hand side get those 2 points? Question mark. Could that attacker get those 2 points? Question mark. Well, really, we need 3 points, and that's what we're looking at, and that's how fine the margins are here. And I just feel like without one of those components, we're going to be deflated. Now, it might be that we don't get that attacker and we sit there after Calafiori and Marino, but I can tell you now, rival fans are sitting there going, Arsenal ain't done enough straight away. So that's where I'm at with the left-hand side. With
Which
Marino,
Dan?
James, go on, bro.
So,
Go on.
sorry,
No, go on.
sorry,
No,
very
go on.
rude of me to interrupt, but
No, no,
it's
go on.
also that was stomachable maybe a week ago when we didn't know how good Slovenia was and we didn't think Gundogan
Facts.
was going anywhere. So it's
Exactly.
all of that, and now it's like City have improved. I know a lot of people were kind of defending the Julian Alvarez transfer fee. I thought it was a little bit crazy. I mean, don't get me wrong, other players who are significantly worse went for ridiculous money as well. So, over the years, so I kind of get why ultimately the fee went to what it did. But I didn't think Alvarez was amazing for City last season. I know he can step in for Haaland. I know he stepped in for De Bruyne. I thought he was good and at times very good. But dare I say their squad's better for having sold Alvarez, re-added Gundogan, and signed Savinho, who I think is more the profile that they needed for their front three. I think they've got better. And I don't
Yeah.
think, and everyone's going, well, there's no backup to Haaland. They've won the title, I think, twice with a false nine, and in Gundogan, because they've still got Nunes and Kovacic. If Rodri steps out, they're more covered then than they certainly were before. I think Terry was making that point on Football Terrace. So it's like, wow, okay, here we go again.
Honestly, and like I think I said it on the previous stream, they wanted to get rid and replace Mahrez and Gundogan. Well, it looks like they've done that this season, this summer already, with Savio and Gundogan himself. They've replaced Gundogan back with Gundogan now. It's this crazy. It really is. So for me, I think they definitely look. Yeah, exactly. And they've got those players still. I don't know. Honestly, for me, it's going to be tricky, and it was going to be tricky anyway. But Manchester City, I think, look stronger. Maybe if Haaland goes down, they might struggle with Oscar Bob with his fractured leg, and now Alvarez nowhere, now being sold. I imagine they'll probably do some madness with a false nine and play Foden there, or KDB there, or maybe even Doku or someone mad like that. But because Pep is just that much of a genius. I mean, I was so impressed with them at the weekend, mate. Manchester City, considering they had no Rodri, no Stones, no Walker, no Foden, I thought, actually, this is a side that actually looks fairly depleted as far as Manchester City are concerned. And I thought they just didn't even get out of second gear, just controlled the game. I thought Kovacic was one of the players of the match. I thought Bernardo in that role was fantastic. And this is just Pep all over, man.
Yeah, and also it's like, and I need to stress, I'm an Arsenal fan. I want Arsenal to win first and foremost, always. But it made my prediction of second place felt a little not vindicated, because you don't want to feel vindicated, but like, I guess our prediction that basically we don't do more, we're probably still second to them. I think a lot of people saw City, well, they won't do 5 in a row. Well, surely the motivation's not there. Well, they've lost Alvarez. So, Haaland might have injuries. Does Rodri want to do it all over again? De Bruyne is a year older. And then you watch them and it's like, no. I've 4 years, I'm not fooled. I know Pep's always got another trick up his sleeve. And I don't think they're done in the market yet. But my thing is, let's not catch them because they've dropped to our level. Let's catch them because we've done bits in the transfer market. And I think Calafiori, Marino are a step towards that. I really do. I'm not seeing it going, we've added them, but we're no better. No, I think we'll be a better team for having them. But again, I'm repeating myself wrong because that's the real point. Add that forward, add a difference maker in that front line. And I think we catch them. I really do believe we can if that player's right.
Well, listen, I hope that does happen, and we do get that player in. I want to touch on the goalkeeping situation at Arsenal because, James, it seems crazy. It seems absolutely mad. Every single summer, we seem to be juggling our goalkeepers around. And I spoke to judges about this earlier, and we went through it since Arteta had joined Arsenal. And in his reign, it is scary how much he is obsessed with goalkeepers, because we had Emi Martinez and Leno. We all realised very quickly that Emi Martinez was a top quality goalkeeper, and then we ended up selling them both for a combined £20 million. And we haven't really replaced either of them in terms of quality, in my opinion. Like, Leno was a good goalkeeper, don't get me wrong, but I don't think that he's any better than Raya or Ramsdale. But I think Emi Martinez is probably better than both. And I look at the scenario, and I think in that time we've also had Matt Ryan, Matt Turner, Runnison, who was an absolute disaster, and some others as well. And I think to myself, where are we going now? Because Aaron Ramsdale clearly needs first team football. I'm actually not a fan of the Dornstein bomb and the Wolves loan with an option. And I'll tell you why. I think the loan is fine. That's absolutely no problem at all. Because if you can't afford him, then that's cool. But have an obligation to buy £30 million after it at the end of the season, and I'm totally cool with it. And that little tweak actually makes me go, okay, I'm cool now, as opposed to this is a disgrace. Because we're basically saying, do you want to try out our goalkeeper? He's really good. And if you do fancy him, then like maybe you can actually give us some money for him. That's essentially what we're doing. That is a crazy deal. So for me, unless that changes to an obligation, I would rather keep Aaron Ramsdale. Now, it looks as if the replacement coming in is potentially Juan Garcia from Espanyol. I know nothing about him, James, but all I can say is it's probably another Matt Turner type signing. So he's going to sit on the bench, happily be in the number two. He's a number one at Espanyol, so he's coming to sit down and potentially try and win some trophies and play some games in the cup. For me, I'm keeping Aaron Ramsdale unless somebody wants to bid £30 million or wants to have a loan with an obligation of that money. Where are you at, bro?
Yeah, I'm with you. I do think Turkish has this theory that I agree with, that Ramsdale struggles as a number two. Like, and maybe as a number one, he's shown his quality, rhythm and game time, but maybe as a number two, that doesn't translate as well. And I actually kind of see that. I think he struggled coming in when he did come in last season. Apart from the Liverpool FA Cup game, although was he done at the near post? I can't remember. So I'm with you. If you're going to play hardball on the Eddie fee, I expect that to be the case for Aaron Ramsdale. Because with all due respect to Eddie, and everyone's going to hear an Eddie hater, like Ramsdale, there is a need for him in the squad. If Raya gets injured, he has to play. Eddie is well down the pecking order. I think he's our fourth choice striker right now. Honestly, I think he's behind Havertz, Jesus, and even Trossard. If you look at games last season, it was Trossard starting a couple in the false nine when Havertz was in midfield and Eddie wasn't getting that game time. So I think it's got to be a deal that makes sense where we at least make our money back, but really should be turning some sort of profit on him. I agree with you. I don't really like the idea of a loan. Some people made a good point that he's on a pretty lengthy contract. So, actually, is he? Did he sign a 3 or 4 year deal last summer?
Who's this?
Ramsdale. Did he sign a 3 or 4 year deal?
2 years left. He's got 2 years left.
Ramsdale. Oh God, then no. I mean, okay, that makes it even worse. Then no.
Exactly that.
The loan is just unacceptable. And to be fair to Arsenal, I mean, all the reports are saying that Arsenal won't entertain a loan unless it has an obligation. So fine. And I think what you've got to do is put pressure on these clubs now, because they're always putting pressure on us. So it's now time for us to say, no, you want our goalkeeper, because there's no real value to us agreeing to the loan, because ultimately we then have to go and spend money to get the replacement. Johan Garcia, from the little I know, he's a first choice goalkeeper who's impressed out there. Like, I think there's semi-big hopes for him. I don't think he's just some joker who's coming in to do a job. I think he's like actually a talented-ish goalkeeper. I might be wrong about that. I can't say I'm a massive expert on him. So again, it just leaves you wondering, like, what we're going to loan out a goalkeeper who is a very good goalkeeper, only to spend more money on a guy that we don't really know a lot about. So I'm with you. It has to be a loan with an obligation, or it has to be a permanent deal. I have to say, I felt 2 weeks ago that he was going to stay. I just thought the real buyers, Newcastle, Chelsea, they're not around, so I thought you're going to stay. But then I just looked at sort of the lack of appearances in pre-season, lack of being, he had none. Ajax coming in, Wolves coming in. He's clearly available. He's clearly, there's clearly movement around him. So now I'm actually leaning towards that he does go.
I got a nasty feeling this is probably going to happen. I really do. I've got a feeling this is going to happen. I say a nasty feeling because I don't want it to. I think Eddie will get done. I imagine Reece Nelson will probably get done to somewhere. I don't know where, but I don't think it will be for the 25 million we want. I think we're more likely to get rid of him for somewhere in the region of 15 to 20 tops. No, Reece Nelson.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, Eddie and Nketiah, I think we will get done for 30 million. Reece Nelson, however, I think we're probably going to be looking to get 15 to 20 million pounds if we're going to get any money at all for him. I actually, again, would have let Leicester have him for the loan with an obligation for around 15 to 20 million. I really would have, but I think we were asking for around 25, and Leicester were just like, we just don't have that money. We're struggling, which is why that deal went off. Kiwior as well is another one, James. I mean, personally, I wouldn't actually mind if he goes or stays. I actually wouldn't mind him in the squad because I feel like he come in and did a job. And I think, Tom made a good point that Arteta actually had quite a lot of faith in him at the Etihad when he did play him there, and he did play him at left back for a while, and he was very good. And then kind of ruthlessly dropped him after he got done by Sane. We never really saw him again. So I'm not quite sure what happens there. All I will say about Kiwior is if he does want to go and play first team football, I can respect that and let him go, whether it's Palace or Serie A. I don't know what your thoughts are about Kiwior.
Yeah, exactly the same. I think Lewis Skelly impressed so much that, ultimately Kiwior was playing all his football at left back because Gabriel's never injured. Touch wood, that remains the same. And if he does get injured, well, you can shift Saliba along and bring in Timber. You could bring in Calafiori. You could play White there. You can do so much, Tomiyasu. And in Lewis Skelly, you've got a young, player who would play it in the way that Zinchenko does. And it definitely feels like Arteta wants to do a little bit more of that this season again, because he kind of moved away from it last season. So, yeah, I'm really fine either way. With a lot of these deals, obviously there's like what I expect a player to go for, what I hope happens, but I'm quite relaxed about most, even to the point where if Eddie stays, but we add the forward, I'll ultimately come out of the window happy because we've got in-house the players we need to win the league. Obviously, there's just this feeling that one has to go for the other to come in. And again, with the Ramsdale deal, I think it would be really disappointing if he goes on loan with an option or a straight loan or whatever. I mean, that I don't think is good enough for Arsenal. But back on the whole, it's not my money and I'm not that arsed about that side of things. Ultimately, if he goes on loan, we get Johan Garcia for 20 million, whatever they're saying he's going to cost, and we sign Gyökeres for 65, then the numbers haven't mattered because we've got the players we want. So it's really just about where the squad is at the end. And Kiwior's one I'm pretty relaxed on about whether he's here or not. I like him though. I think he's okay.
Yeah, I'm with you, and I think that was articulately put as well. I do agree with everything you've said. I want to come to I've got a couple of questions before we wrap up, but I've got to talk to you about this one. Marino and Calafiori have been linked with Arsenal what it feels like forever. Yeah. Why does it take so long, James? I know that you don't know the answer to that, but there must be an opinion you have about why this does take so long. Because for me, we've had nearly 8 to 9 weeks of this window, and we brought in a defender. I don't understand why it took so. Look, the Calafiori situation. I understand. Basel deserved a fee. Roma needed a fee. That's going to take longer, right? So I can kind of get behind that one. Marino, it looks like it's imminent. It looks like it's close. It looks like it's 24 hours away, 48 hours away, and it just seems to keep going on. Now, Fabrizio Romano has been recycling that tweet for what feels like 4 months, and I just feel now that we need to actually ask the question: what is the holdup? Because I'm hearing that 20 million euros, which works out around about 17 million, was the starting offer. Now it's gone up to nearly 40 million euros, and people are saying it might be off because that's way too much, and Arsenal can't afford it. Arsenal want to do it in installments again. Sociedad clearly don't want it in that many installments. What is happening here? This just seems like a bit of a mess, and rival fans will be laughing because they'll be like, look, this is a 30 million euro midfielder. Why is it not being done? What are Arsenal trying to save money for? Do you think it's that, or do you just think it's both teams are trying to still compromise on a fee, or what's going wrong here is my question, I suppose.
I have absolutely no idea, mate.
It's mad though, isn't it? Like, I just don't get it.
Tottenham signed Archie Gray like that, wasn't it was brought up and suddenly he was through the door. I remember even with the Vieira one, it was like Fabio Vieira, all this stuff, it blew up in one day. I think we had to wait like 3.5 weeks for the announcement. It was like,
so Pedro Neto, the other day, Pedro Neto was like done. It was like, whoa, like it's done deal. And I know it's Chelsea, but it's like, wow, how does this get done so quickly? And we're weeks and weeks away. It's mad.
Yeah. I don't know the answer. I think if I'm to throw some sort of bullet point theories out there, do we spend a lot of time talking to the player and the agent and sort of that kind of stuff before we enter negotiations with the club? Why would we do that? Is it to apply pressure on the club? I just wonder because I'm putting the pieces together with the reports. Every sort of, respectable journalist is saying personal terms agreed. That's not a problem. Player wants to come. I mean, it was 2.5, 3 weeks ago that Romano was saying Marino has told Barcelona, Atletico Madrid that he only wants Arsenal. Why would you tell them that if you're not very confident you're coming? Because there's 2 other very, very good clubs who wanted you. So clearly Arsenal have done some work on the player side and have been for a while. Now it's only really in the last kind of 3, 4, 5 days that we've heard the likes of David Ornstein will ever come through and say, Arsenal are sort of really upping their chase for Mikel Mourinho. You're thinking, what do you mean upping our chase? I thought we were close. I thought this was on the brink. But I really wonder whether Arsenal just do so much background, whatever, before they actually sit in front of the club and go, okay, how much do you want? And then the real kind of back and forth begins. Now that's just a theory. I have no idea. I've never bought or sold a player. I don't know, but it just feels like in the reporting that seems to be the order in which we get information. Is it that ultimately we progress a deal for Marino, but we're also waiting till the very end to see if a Bruno Guimaraes is available or a Frankie de Jong? But nothing's really telling you or telling us that we are trying for that player either. So I really don't know. Is it also that they're trying to put Saucet under pressure with the fee? The later in the window it goes, he's only got 1 year left. Is it that maybe they're trying to narrow it down as much as possible? Every million saved is important because they want to go spend that on the forward. I have no idea. I've just thrown out a load of potential, but the reality is, ultimately, when it comes down to it, we do take too long, like we do. And whatever the reason is, I don't know, but it is frustrating. And actually, it's worse than frustration. It's actually boring. It's just a bit like, okay, like I'm talking about Marino like he's through the door already. He's not, but it's dragged that long that I'm like, guys, he's done. Like we'll see him at some point. He'll be unveiled, but it's surely going to happen, because if it doesn't at this point, then my word, have we wasted a whole month? I was in Philadelphia. It's 20th of August. I was in the States when like the Marino stuff actually picked up pace. Yeah, we're approaching a month ago. So it's frustrating, but listen, I think we got enough for these games without Marino, but I just wish we got things done quicker.
Yeah, likewise, I really do. Listen, there's 10 days to go, and the window will shut. There is a season that has started, James, which is mad to get this long without actually starting to talk about it. But I don't want to go into the Wolves game too much, because obviously it's very early days. We've only just kicked off, it seems. I want to talk about the season to close, because I feel like there's a couple of things I really want to see from Arsenal, and I really want to see from Mikel Arteta. I wanted to get your thoughts on those as well and see if we're on the same page. For me, the one that I am screaming from the rooftops louder than ever is to please take the domestic cup seriously. This season, winning a League Cup or an FA Cup, it means so much to me as a fan. I'm a little bit older than you, James. I don't want to say it too loudly, but I grew up on Arsenal winning the League Cup and the FA Cup. My first trophy that I remember was the double against Sheffield Wednesday in 93-94. That, for me, was what I grew up on. So when people who are a little bit younger than me go, oh, I don't really want that energy drink cup, that really offends me, because I celebrated that like crazy. And so did George Graham, and so did Ian Wright, and so did Tony Adams, and so did Kevin Campbell, rest in peace, right? So for me, I look at those individuals and I think, ask them what they think of the energy drink cup. Ask Ten Hag what he thought of it, because those sort of managers have still got jobs because of those trophies. So it really does kind of frustrate me that the fans think we're way too big for that. We haven't won one for 31 years. So we can't be too big for it if you haven't won it for that long. The FA Cup, it's our trophy. I want number 15. Nobody else has got 14, but some people have got close to that. I want to make sure we continue winning that, because let's be real, in the last 20 years, it's the only thing we've ever had excitement about it celebrating. So we'll talk about Champions League and League Cup, and Premier League in a minute. But those domestic cups, I kind of feel like we've disrespected them in the last few years under Mikel Arteta. I kind of understand where he's at, and certainly the FA Cup in the last 2 years, getting the draw of Liverpool and then Man City over the 2 years is kind of crazy. But I just get frustrated when I hear fans that are like, I don't really want that, just getting the Champions League. It riles me, man.
You took the words out of my mouth, honestly. Apart from the memories, so I don't have quite as many memories of Arsenal lifting those trophies, but the FA Cup's one of them for me. I was ridiculed at school. I went to school with a bunch of Chelsea fans who were winning titles, and Mourinho was tearing it up, and we couldn't beat Mourinho and Chelsea, whatever it took, and Drogba used to dunk on us. And then I remember in 2014 when we beat Hull in that final, like it was one of my greatest memories. And actually, we've won 4 FA Cups since then. It's become our trophy. And you're right, our history in that competition is unmatched. When City were playing United in the final, it wasn't until I realised that actually United winning it wouldn't they wouldn't equal our record, that I realised why I didn't care who would win it then. Because, I mean, so you never want United winning things as an Arsenal fan, but I don't know, like, you know, these kind of records and these things matter because they're our history, they're our DNA, they are, you know, they are who we are. I think when it comes to like the League Cup and stuff, I'm with you. We don't win enough to bat off cups. There's not enough trophies to win in football. The football calendar doesn't work like. Do you like tennis?
Love tennis.
You know, you have the ATP tour. You have a few
Mhm.
250s and 500s, which are like, you know, the best players probably aren't entering those. They might enter some. And then you've
Yeah,
got the Masters thousands, and they're the ones that it's like, okay, they're big competitions. You want to win them. And then you've got the Grand Slams. We sort of are in this world where you've kind of only got 2 Grand Slams if you want, but it kind of you've only got 4 trophies in football. That's it. There's
yeah,
no other things going on that you can. There's personal pride. There is banter. There's bragging rights. There's derbies. There's rivalries and matches to win on weekends you enjoy. But there isn't. There's nothing else in the form of kind of trophies and competition and silverware and honors outside of those 4 competitions, of which Man City clean up 1 or 2 of them a year anyway. So it's very difficult. I want us, yeah, someone say it's not like darts. I don't follow darts, but it's not like F1, where it's every race is a Grand Prix. Then there's something to win there outside of the bigger picture. So for me, I don't think Arteta has like deliberately gone out these competitions, but I also think his 11s and his approach have quite clearly shown his priorities. I think you've got to go and get a I think you've got to get a squad in place where if we start next season, the Carabao Cup, 3rd round, say we're away to Bournemouth, and the 11 is Garcia or Ramsdale, one of them, with
hmm
Timber, Tomiyasu, Calafiori, Lewis Skelly, Vieira, Partey, Marino, or Vieira, Jorginho, Marino, with, you know, I don't know, Nwaneri, Jesus, Trossard. It's a good team. It's a very good team. If that gets knocked out, like there's only so much. I'm obviously it depends on the day and context, but I'd say okay, like you know, you got to rotate, but that's still a good 11. It's about getting the squad in place to do that. I don't expect him to play Saka and Rice every single week to ensure we win the Carabao Cup. But I do hope that we get the balance right better and that we can go further in these competitions because I agree. I want us to win these cups as well. I think it transmits a winning attitude. It sets a standard. And I think when you look back on it, you know, Arteta wants to be able to say, I won a few Premier Leagues, I won a Champions League, I won a couple FA Cups, a couple Carabao Cups, and then you can shamelessly chuck in those community shields and no one will laugh at you. But people are going to laugh when they're the only thing you've got to show alongside an FA Cup from 4 or 5 years ago. That's kind of the reality of it.
No, you're absolute facts, man. And do you know what's mad? People don't take this seriously when I say this. The last 2 decades, the most successful clubs in England have been Chelsea and Manchester City, right? They have won the most League Cups in that period of time.
Exactly.
Winning breeds confidence, man. You get to February, March, and you've already got a trophy. That team knows what it's like to win that season. The likelihood
Yeah.
here, it's got a better chance of going and winning again that season. And I think for me, when I look at what Jose Mourinho did with winning League Cups and then leagues, and then Pep Guardiola winning 4 or 5 League Cups in the last 7 years, for me, that just proves that by March, you are doing that already. You can go do it again in May. And that's why I believe Arsenal should take that 100% seriously. And, you know, for me, I actually do. I happen to think we'll win silverware this year because I think we have to win
I do
silverware
too.
this year. I think we have to. And I think Mikel Arteta knows he has to. So that's quite a nice segue for me to lead into the manager because I wanted to close on this. There's a lot of people that say to me, what happens to Mikel Arteta? I don't like to talk about it in game week 1 because I think it's mad, right? But I do think it's a difficult conversation come the end of the season if we haven't won something again. I really do. I don't think it's as easy as he's staying because it's Mikel, right? I think we
Mhm.
actually need to look at it and say, you know, why should he have to stay? And if you believe that he should stay, that's absolutely fine, by the way. If you believe he should go, in my opinion, it's absolutely fine because you've got difference of opinions in football. I don't want to start saying Arteta out already in game week 1, but I do feel like there's going to be such pressure on him if he doesn't win a trophy this season that it is going to be very hard for those that do really like what he's done to defend the fact that he needs to stay for a few more years. Because for me, You need to be lifting something with this team. And it's fine to say he's won something already with the FA Cup with an Unai Emery side. That means he can win a trophy, right? Well, prove you can win with the team that you want, because this is the team that you've built, that you've spent £600 million on now. You have to get across the line. And I'm not saying he has to win a Champions League or a Premier League. Boy, I'd love him to. But for me, if you do not win a trophy again, you're going to get that question marks as to, are you the nearly there? Are you the nearly there man, Mikel? Or are you the man, Mikel? And that's what I wanted to close with, James, because I think that's a real good question for me to kind of put to yourself.
You know what's funny? I bet if you ask Mikel Arteta, not in an interview segment, but like in a genuine private conversation, if you said to him, "We've won the Carabao Cup or the FA Cup, but we finished second to Man City. You know, you're happy with that season?" I bet you he'd say no.
Yeah.
I think he's hell bent on winning the Premier League and beating City to it and beating Pep to it. I think he really wants to bring that first European trophy to Arsenal, the Champions League. You know, that is where I think his priorities are. But ultimately, I agree. Like, you do need silverware. The group needs silverware. He needs silverware. And also, it's not an either or. I'm not going, just win the Carabao Cup and I won't mind about the Prem. No, I expect us to challenge Man City. I just want us to take these other competitions more seriously, because we've got one of the biggest, most impressive squads in the league. So that's just ultimately in the country. That's ultimately my expectation. The whole question about, like, if this doesn't happen, should he go? When that day comes in 9 months, there will be heaps and heaps and heaps. There we go. Thumbs up. Hit the like button, everyone, if you enjoy the stream. There will be heaps and heaps of context that will make our decision. If he does a Klopp and loses it on 98 points, and they got 99 or whatever it was, 97, 98, like, it'd be very difficult to sit there and go, yeah, get rid of the guy. Like, of course. But if he finishes second, but he's miles off, 15 points. We were never really in the race. We did nothing in the cups. It's really concerning for the money that's spent. So then you start looking at the market. Well, what's out there? Who's out there? Who's better? There's going to be so much to consider when that comes. And, I'd bet anything he's thinking about this himself. I don't think he's someone who likes to waste time. I think he wanted these last 2 Premier League trophies. I know a lot of us are sort of thinking like, okay, well, this is probably the year he was expected to win it, maybe behind the scenes or whatever. But I think he was gutted he didn't win it 2 years ago. And I think he gutted he didn't win it last season either. Like, really, I think you could see that. You were in the stadium, weren't you, when he did his speech? And
Absolutely.
Genuine disappointment there. None of this, well, look, we
Probably
tried hard.
one of the best speeches that he's done, in my opinion. And it was probably the biggest positive to the end of a deflating season, that he was genuinely gutted. Because I think some people think that it's like, oh, well, Arsenal comes second again. Mikel's fine because he gets keep his job. Actually, Mikel's not fine. You could tell he was devastated. In the last 2 years, he's wanted to win the league 100%. I've got no desire that he's trying his best. I've got no doubt, that he's not trying his best. I've got no doubt that he's given 110%. And I've got no doubt that he's genuinely frustrated that, don't be satisfied. That was what his exact words were. Don't be satisfied with this. This ain't what we want.
Yeah.
I know you're giving us a round of applause and thanks for the support, but don't be satisfied with this. This ain't what we want, And I liked that, James. I liked that.
Yeah, me too. I remember watching your fan cam. I thought it was great because I remember you touched on that in your fan cam, I think. Pretty sure it was that. Maybe it was another piece of content. That was like a really poignant message at the right time. There's a very important moment there where I think Arsenal fans, a lot would have even forgiven him for going, look, we knew it was going to be difficult today, but thank you for your support. We've had a great run. We'll go again next year. And no, he took the moment to go, don't be satisfied. There's so much we want to get and we're going to get it. Something like that. And it was like, I think it was just what we needed at that right moment. And I think it's fueled us for this season. But it's like I said, and people are going to think I'm a broken record and I'm so boring. Player recruitment fuels that. It does as well. Feeling like you've got something different to throw at Man City. So, I've sort of, I'm an expert waffler because I've managed to just dodge that, swerve that question.
No, mate, you've done well though, because I agree with what you said. So
it's context. Honestly, come to me in April, May. I'm sure we'll do many more shows before that.
Yeah.
But when that comes around, I'll happily come back on and we'll look at all the context and we'll look at where we are, and then I'll decide whether he's the guy, and whether he deserves a 6th full season. Because we're looking at his 5th now. It's crazy, but that's the reality of it. How ambitious are Arsenal? How ambitious is Arteta? But you know what? I don't think it's going to come to that. I really don't. I don't think this conversation is going to happen. I think it's going to be a case of, yeah, things got over the line. Is it necessarily the Premier League? I don't know, but I think things will get over the line this season. I'm excited for it.
Yeah, man, absolutely. Listen, that's where we're going to end it. Absolute legend for coming on, James. Thanks so much for
You're a
being
legend,
part
man.
of this Gooner to Gooner. I'm trying to do these shows where I'm just doing these one-on-one chats, and they do just fly by, man. So it's been great, and it's been
They do fly
absolutely,
by, don't they?
yeah, it's been a great chat, man. It really has. Listen, I'm going to put your link in the title, but shout out what you've been up to, man, and how people can
Oh,
follow you,
thank you.
James.
Well, I mean, yeah, I mean, I'm on AFTV, still doing Tactical Insight Forever, but just in the last, really in 2024, been doing some own kind of different style videos around Arsenal on my channel. So if people are interested, obviously we're going to get you on the Gooniverse podcast soon, Dan. We have spoken about that. We'll make it happen because I'd love to get you on. And yeah, it's just, do you like stats? I'm delivering them on the Gooniverse.
The stat man.
So there you go. But no, thank you for having me, Dan, and congrats on everything you're doing on this channel. It's brilliant. I love the work, the design work, especially recently. The amount of different voices and fans you get is phenomenal. And you're building a phenomenal community here. So yeah, massive congrats. I know we talk all the time off screen about Arsenal and YouTube and things outside of all that, but yeah, just congrats to you, really.
Nah, come on, man. Big up. I appreciate that. And I appreciate you coming on. And what you're doing over there is madness as well. So please make sure you go follow James and all of his content. Put James B into Twitter and social media. You'll always see him on there with his opinions as well. And all of course, FTV. So please make sure that you go and do that. Listen, guys, absolute legends. I'm going to be back with another Arsenal show tonight at 9 p.m. where I've got myself and a few other Arsenal panelists that you all know very, very well, talking all things Arsenal. So please make sure you come and join me up for that one. Until then, take it easy. Make sure you hit the like button. Make sure you hit subscribe and make sure you go and spam the chat on Saeed's because you're going to go and be redirected to Saeed now. So please make sure that you go and say Dan Potts Raid on his show. So big up to all of you. Take it easy and we'll see you next time. Laters.